What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV here, back again with another Tottenham update for you guys. Ben is indisposed at the moment because for different reasons, he won't be able to be joining the channel for the next probably few days. I'll let Ben release the news. But anyway, Brian Daigle is with us in the house today. Big up to you, Brian. Appreciate your time as always.
Always, brother. Always when it comes to you guys, I'm always there whenever you need me. All good, brother. How are you?
Yeah, absolutely great. Absolutely great. Some interesting transfer news we have to talk about. Charlie Eccleshare has been talking about the prospective transfers in January. We'll start off with what he had to say about Conor Gallagher. He said Tottenham will try and strike a deal for Conor Gallagher in January should he become available for transfer, with sources close to Chelsea stating the club are prepared to listen to bids. For you, is Conor Gallagher one you would really want this January? Like a lot of people talking about getting a midfielder in this next month. Obviously, a lot of players out injured, a lot of players are away with on international duty. Is Conor Gallagher one of the ones on your list that you would really want through the door?
Crystal Palace, Conor Gallagher, yes. Chelsea one, no. I've seen you and Ben do that wonderful video about targets, and you spoke about him and Phillips. I keep saying if we go for an English young midfielder, I want Morgan Gibbs-White. That's the one that I really want. But this Gallagher one just simply isn't going away, is it? But I still find it hard to think Chelsea will release their skipper or vice the skipper to us of all teams. It keeps gathering pace, but I don't know how much there is to it.
I think there definitely is something to the statement that Chelsea do want to listen to offers. I think because the reason being I say that is because they spend a lot of money, and to comply with FFP, they might need to make some hard decisions when it comes to sales. And Conor Gallagher, because he's homegrown, that counts as basically pure profit if they sell him, and that would really help with that FFP. And because they've spent so much money, and it looks like they're not going to be making Champions League football this season, that leaves them in an awkward situation where they might need to make some tough decisions to make. So I think there's some truth to potentially Chelsea looking to sell him. But I agree with you, whether that means they're willing to sell him to, their biggest rival in Spurs, and whether that means that's a possibility, I'm still very much not sure about that. I don't know if... I know, like Roman, if he was in charge, he kind of was there for a long time and he understood the rivalry between Spurs and Chelsea. And I think he probably would have put he basically would have put a pin in that. He would have said no chance. But Bowley maybe is different. Maybe, he's more willing to deal with us. And maybe there is a possibility. But again, whether Conor would want to come to us as well, being a Chelsea boy. He said he grew up around the corner from Stamford Bridge. I think there are too many parts that tell me it probably isn't going to happen. But if Chelsea are willing to deal with us, he's willing to come, and we're willing to put up the fee, I think it would be a great deal for us.
Well, do you know what? You raised a couple of good points when you talk about the FFP that Chelsea are obviously going to fall under, as well as not getting Champions League football. That definitely puts some more fuel on the fire, doesn't it? I think if we were going to get this deal done, it would have been a summertime thing. January. I mean, don't get me wrong. It could well and truly happen. And for me, if this does happen, I think that means Højbjerg's out the door. And it may dependent on getting Højbjerg out. We'll have to wait and see. Listen, does he have some good qualities? Yes. Does he help our homegrown quota? Yes. We'll have to wait and see. I think this one will drag on again all throughout the window.
Yeah, I agree. Like things usually do with Spurs. Obviously, he was. We were subject to some interest from him on deadline day in the summer, weren't we? And obviously that dragged all the way through, but nothing ever happened. Next up, Charlie Eccleshare was talking about prospective centre backs joining Spurs. He has gone on to say that Todibo, Dragusin, Tosin Adarabioyo and Lloyd Kelly are all amongst options on Spurs' defensive players shortlist. That's according to Charlie Eccleshare. Romano again chimed in on the issue, saying Tottenham will 100% sign a new centre-back in January. Todibo is one of the top targets on the list. In the last 7 days, Spurs spoke to the player side and to Nice. So, Tottenham want to be fast and don't want to spend a month on the deal. That would definitely be a switch up for the transfer strategy if we were to do that. Obviously, that's the feelers Spurs are putting out. Is it a case of I'll believe it when I see it, or do you see some willingness for Spurs to do things in a different way?
I believe 100% a centre back's coming in. There's no doubt about it. We know we need to do it.
I'm talking more about the willingness to maybe act quickly and trying to act in the window.
That part, Simeon, is the one thing that I've said that I'm gauging this whole window on. It looks like we're trying to do this, and it looks like we're making attempts for our number one target to be wrapped up as quickly as possible. We know Andrew's asked for it. We know Andrew's got it at Celtic. Talks have started, which is a big step in the right direction. But we know that talks have started with Porro on before December was out. This is the biggest wait and see, isn't it? Look, let's put it this way: Spurs are making the right noise. That they're trying to address this quickly. Actions speak louder than words, though, don't they, Sim?
I have to agree. And I know in the summer we did do some business early. I think we got Maddison in fairly early. We got Vicario in fairly early. But then there were some deals that we did leave late. Brennan Johnson was after the preseason pretty much. We left the search for a second centre back all the way till deadline day and ended up not getting one. Conor Gallagher and Højbjerg situation still lingers. That rumbled on. So look, Andrew's been talking about how important it is for Spurs to go early, get someone in at the beginning of the window. But we know with Spurs, it's not usually how we conduct our business. It's not usually how we go about things. So I'm not going to sit here and expect by the 1st of Jan us Spurs to have a player signed, or even in the first week. I'm not going to sit here and expect that. It'll be a massive bonus. But hopefully Tottenham are at least acknowledging, or there is some sort of noises that maybe we're willing to operate in a different way, and hopefully the pressure from Ange is conducive to that, or he's pushing for that. But if we're sitting here again on deadline day in January and we're scrambling around for a loan deal for a centre back, I'm going to come and I'm going to criticize them because they've had time to get their targets and be organized and be strategical about these things. And that's where they've always, I feel sometimes been held back.
Simeon, I said to you when I was with you a lot in the summer that you've got to do a compilation of how you start the transfer window, all positive and everything, and how you get more and more frustrated towards the end, and near the end you're going mental. Like I said, listen, that's what we want to see. If things come in quick, listen, there's no doubt we've spent money. There's no doubt in January we've spent money, but it's been all last minute, and we've wasted time with people like Porro, where they could have played in key games for us, like Man City away, Arsenal. There's games where these players could have figured, and this is where we've missed out. Now, if we all have said we want this to be done, the business to be done early. Poch said it. Ange Postecoglou has come out and said it quite vocally, and not just on a single occasion. This has been said on multiple times. This is going to be a huge. If this gets done early and we're sitting here, let's say in the first 10 days with 2-3 players that we desperately needed, not fringe players that are going to be added to the squad, then it's only a positive thing. You can sit back and say, "Well done." It looks like they may be learning. A long way to go, but that's what we got. That's what we got to hope for, isn't it?
100%. But look, let's hope. January is literally 10 days away now at this point, or 11 days away. So let's really hope that we've got our house in order when it comes to what we're doing and plans for January. And let's hope we can have a good one. We're definitely desperate for some movement early on as well. I think what could definitely be important, though, in January, as important as incomings, could be outgoings. And Charlie Eccleshare is talking about some outgoings. He says, Ajax are among the interested clubs in Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, but they are aware that Tottenham don't want to loan the midfielder without an obligation to buy, and so aren't confident of getting a deal done. Højbjerg himself is keener to move to Juventus if they were to push for him. Di Marzio chimed in on the Højbjerg situation and says, Højbjerg is liked by Juventus. Tottenham would be open to a loan with an obligation to buy for the Danish midfielder. Juventus moving for him is a possibility, but he's also followed by other teams, both in Serie A and in Premier League. Among those teams is Napoli. I think obviously the sticking point with Højbjerg in the summer was obviously we wanted to let him go, but we wanted a good fee for him. He probably was open to leaving if a good club came in for him. I think the only permanent deal that was on the table for him was Fulham, and he wasn't interested. And all the other clubs like Atletico and the other teams who were interested only wanted loan deals without an obligation. So do you see that situation changing in January? Do you see a possibility of someone actually coming up and stumping the cash that Tottenham want? I mean, at this stage, 18 months left on his deal. I still think easily he's a £25 million player in terms of his quality, his stature in the game, and he's still got 18 months left. But that's been the sticking point, isn't it? And I don't see us bringing in a midfielder unless Højbjerg leaves. So the two options are, I guess, do we sell him? Is anyone going to come in permanently? If not, do we just dig our heels in terms of keeping him around for the sake of maybe getting a fee and forego maybe the ability to bring in a Conor Gallagher this January for the sake of trying to get a fee for Højbjerg? Or do we maybe just loan him out without an obligation to buy to try and drive up the interest from the buying club with a view of selling him in the summer for a decent fee, which will then allow us to sign someone in January?
Well, the way I'm looking at it as well, Simeon, is if Juventus are less keen in wanting them, we're apparently reported to want about 3 of their players, aren't we? I think there's 3 that have been mentioned. Surely there could be some kind of exchange, or make weight in a price, or loan one with obligation or option and do the vice versa, and then you can bring in Conor Gallagher. So neither team's losing. There's got to be. If Juve want one of our players, we're desperately after, should I say, a couple of theirs or serious interest. Surely there's some kind of compromise that can be made between that deal. I think Pierre, as a player, wants to leave. Not because he doesn't like Tottenham and he wants out. I think he wants first team football. It's the Euros. He's going to want to be playing regularly, so he's ready for Denmark. We'll have to see, but we always see in the transfer, not always just generate with Tottenham. There's normally a domino effect, isn't it, where one player goes and then it sparks a domino rally kind of thing. I think Højbjerg could be that player this January. I think he could be the domino that falls, and then a few transfer deals work around it.
And I agree. If Højbjerg was to leave, I think that could definitely cause some movement for us, especially in midfield or even in other positions as well. But considering we got no Basuma, no Sarr, no Bentancur for January, having an option is going to be vital. So, does it make sense for Spurs to loan out Højbjerg?
I think this only happens, Sim, near the end of the window, when we know either Basuma or Pape Matar is coming back. If we look at the two, the AFCONs, it'll probably be Basuma. We all know or all think that Senegal will get a lot further in the tournament than Mali would. So maybe when Basuma comes back, that may be, okay, he's back. We can now afford to start doing this. I hope we don't do it. I hope to God that if he does go, and I am a fan of Pierre's, that it doesn't happen whilst those two are away. Because then we are down to the bare bones.
Unless we have someone lined up.
Exactly. Unless Gallagher or whoever it may be is in the door. Not do like an Ericsson, get them out the door, then try and find a replacement. That replacement needs to be in the door before Pierre walks.
Yeah, I agree. And that's the situation we are in January because of our selection problems. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what does happen with Højbjerg, because we were clearly trying to get rid of him in the summer. Yep. I don't think he's been bad when given the opportunity. I look at him, and as much as I think he can do a job, he's just got a ceiling, doesn't he? He's just got a ceiling in this kind of system where he's never going to think as quickly as we want him to think. He's never going to have as much quality as you want for him to have. Yeah. And yes, he can come in and do a good job even against good teams. He can do a decent job in that midfield, but I think consistently, is he going to be able to be that perfect midfielder for you? Is he ever going to have enough technical ability for you? Is he ever going to have that ability to make quick decisions and play the ball accurately and not get flustered? Like, I think that's always going to be the case with Højbjerg when push comes to shove. And as much as I think he's a good player, the way we want to play nowadays, I just think he's never going to be perfect for that. So I just feel like if we can get rid of him, that'll be great. But for a player of Højbjerg's ability, you do want to have a fair price. I don't think he's one of these players where you take a massive cut price fee because you just want to get him out. I don't think he's at that level. But I do think he needs to go.
I think where we are with him as well this season, and this coming for a fan, I think coming off the bench this season, he's played a huge part in games and had an impact in every game that he's come on for. Whenever he started a game, you can see that the Ange kind of system isn't as suited to him as like a Conte or a Jose. So off the bench, he's having a huge impact or an impact. From the start, not so much. And I think that's where the difference is, isn't it? He wants first team football and starting, and what we want him for right now isn't conducive with that.
Yeah, and the way we're trying to play, especially in the central midfield, is very intricate build up, playing in tight spaces. You have to be super accurate and super quick with your decision making and awareness of space and all this kind of stuff. And the one thing I've always said about Pierre, even at his best at Tottenham, is when he's put under pressure and when you're hounding him and he has to make a quick decision, that's where things start to fall down for him. And that's pretty much the whole way of playing for Ange. So
yeah,
I can't see any way but eventually him leaving. So we'll see if it happens in January. But Juventus would be a great move for him. But whether that's something they have the money to stump up, that's another case. A lot of teams around Europe are struggling for cash at the moment. Charlie Ekesha went on to say about another outgoing in Eric Dier, saying Eric Dier remains far more likely to leave in the summer when his contract expires than in January. I mean, that probably makes sense considering in the summer he had opportunities to leave, didn't he? And he decided that he would rather, be in the reserves essentially for 6 months or a year than take those opportunities. So I don't see why that position would have changed in 6 months' time. I just think in Dier's from Dier's point of view, what's the point in from his point of view, he's going to have more control in 6 months. He can have the pick of where he wants to go rather than where Tottenham want him to go. He'll probably get a better salary in 6 months' time because he'll be leaving on a free and not for the transfer fee. So I think that all makes sense. But hopefully, what if it would be good for everyone? I just think it would be good for everyone if in January we can come to an agreement to maybe let him go or cancel his contract or whatever it is, or maybe let him leave on a free to somewhere where he wants to go without a transfer fee. Because I just feel like this whole situation right now, Dier sitting in the reserves, Emerson's playing at centre back ahead of him. It can't be good for the atmosphere, around just having that kind of situation. It can't be good for Dier, being probably disrespected, whether it's rightfully, you can argue whether it's right that it is or not. I'll probably argue it is because he's just not suited to the system. But at the end of the day, if you're a centre back and Emerson is our backup right back who's playing centre back ahead of you, you're going to feel disrespected one way or another. Let's be honest, and that probably is the situation. It's not good, teammates looking at that as well. That kind of situation. I just feel like if we can just end this situation. I'm sure he's not a toxic character or anything like that, and it's cool. I don't know whether it's causing anything in the dressing room. There's no indication that it is. Obviously, I'm not saying that it is, but I'm just saying that kind of situation. It can't be a good thing, can it? Having him around and just being on the bench when he's a senior player and he's not fancied.
So, Simon, I'll tell you a little story. Last night, this is my rock and roll lifestyle here in Toronto. I was doing the dishes while I was listening to you and Ben on the update yesterday, doing the washing up, and I listened to your segment, obviously, on this subject, and I couldn't agree with both of you more. You look at it now, and with Ben saying, and you were saying, when you look at it, and in a back four, when we had no central defence and we're playing 4 fullbacks, that's got to be the biggest. Okay, my time is done. I need to get out of here. I can't even play in my preferred position when none of them are available. And I think what Ben was saying about just pay Eric Dier off, get him out, and let him after whether he's been a great player or not, which I think a lot of us will say he's not. He's given us 8, 9, or coming up to 10 years. Let him go. He's going in the summer, regardless, by the sounds of it. He wants to go back to Sporting Lisbon. I think it's quite clear that he's mentioned it before. Let's just get him out the door. Out the door, say, listen, we're not going to hold you to ransom. You're not playing. Off you go. Go back home. Go to where you want to be. Have control of your destiny. Thank you for your service. And away you go. That's what I really wish and hope would happen here. Why can't we do this for a player that clearly isn't wanted? Clearly isn't wanted. Like you said, Ange does not pick him or play him. He's on the bench as filler, really, isn't he? I've got Philip. You're not wanted. You're not going to get game time. Go and have your last career move and And if it's Lisbon you want to go home, we're not going to stand in your way. Let's hope that happens in January.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I just I feel bad for him because it's. I mean, I kind of feel bad for him, but he could have moved if he really wanted to. But
Yeah,
he's
that
trying
as
to
well.
do what's best for him, and what's best for him is to leave on. If there's no or if there's no opportunity on the table that interests him, then he's going to do what's best for him, which is to run that down his contract. What I really hope doesn't happen in January, which would really infuriate me if it does, is Dier digs his heels in to stay,
Yeah.
and Tottenham use that as an excuse not to that they can't get another centre back. You know what I mean? If it means we got to leave him out the squad, if it means whatever, I don't care what the situation with Dier is come the end of the window. I don't want to, because that's what happened in the summer. We were waiting for Dier to leave essentially to push the green button on a new centre back, and obviously it didn't happen. I don't want to see that situation again in January. That for me, that's unacceptable. That
Yeah,
situation
I put a tweet out and said as well, when we heard about this regular on loan potentially to Germany, I was like, why is it? And you were talking about it on that contract up show. Why is it we just keep loaning these players out? The big clubs with ambition go, right, that's it. You're standing in our way. You're not good enough. You're out the door. Goodbye. And they'll move them on, maybe take the hit or whatever. If he's digging his heels in and we use the excuse, well, we couldn't get a defender in because he wouldn't get out the door. Yes, you can get him out the door. You say, right, here's your contract paid up in full. On your way. You're going to pay him that money anyway.
Or you just ignore him. You leave him out the squad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's that as well. You just take him out the 25-man squad, put someone else in. But if they're saying we couldn't bring anyone in because we couldn't get him out, and this is all if, then the club that's quite a bottle job kind of excuse, because you could pay him off the last 6 months of his contract and clear that up anyway.
What I would say about the summer is it wasn't a good excuse, but I can kind of see it. Dier's a senior centre back. He wants to stay. He's just had surgery on whatever injury he had from last season. And apparently, that could help him, get back to some sort of better level. And if he was refusing to leave, and then Ange was going to use him, and he was going to come in as our third choice centre back, whatever, then I can understand, like, okay, we didn't want to spend the money because Dier's here and we have a centre back, blah blah blah. But now it's become increasingly clear that 6 months later, Ange is not going to use him even when we don't have any centre backs, and he's basically not part of the squad. You're basically ignoring him anyway. I don't want to see that excuse again. I don't want to see the club saying, "Look, Dier's still here, so we can sign a centre back." That's just correct. For me at this point now. If it means that Dier's still here, but he gets left out the Premier League squad, then I think that so be it. That has to be the case for me. So let's hope that situation can be resolved in January. One more incoming was reported by a Danish publication called BT Sporten, and this is about the Copenhagen wonder kid Rooney Bargi, and they say that Tottenham are currently big suitors for the Swedish wonder kid Rooney Bargi. And if you were watching Copenhagen, the Champions League last season, you might remember his name. He scored against Man United in their 4-3 win over them in Copenhagen earlier this season. Obviously, he's 18 years of age and has really exploded onto the scene this season. A right winger, but left-footed, extremely good at dribbling. I don't know if you've seen much of him. I was watching a bit of Copenhagen this season. He seems like a real talent. And a player we could definitely use. And I do think we need a winger this season, to be honest. We do need a winger in January, to be honest. Someone who's better suited to what we want to do with our wingers. But, for you, signing an 18-year-old kid, is that for you, is that like one for the future? Or would you like, if we sign someone of that age, could you see them possibly going straight into the team?
I've got to be careful here, because with Pape Matar, I went mad, saying, "Oh my God, why have we signed another one for the future?" And obviously, I absolutely adore him now. And it took a couple of years to come in, and obviously, Paratici was right. With the winger, I think we definitely, I agree with you. We definitely need one. If Paratici's got his fingers and thumbs and his eyes on this, then look at his success rate. Then I'm completely all for it. We've had a bit of problem with wingers, whether it's been injury, form. So we do need strength there. Do I think I can't? Do you know what? I've not seen I haven't seen him kick a solitary football, so it's hard for me to say whether he'd be ready for it now. But if he scored against Man U, which isn't really hard this season, is it? but fair play to him doing it in the Copenhagen team. And these wonder kids are coming through, and it's good to see Spurs linked with them.
Well, his name's Rooney, so that name has definitely formed for a wonder kid. So if that's anything to go by, I think we should sign him up. But look, if I was watching Copenhagen a few times, in the Champions League, and he definitely looks like a real talent. So definitely want to keep an eye on if we do end up pushing a button on that. Some good news from Paul O'Keefe regarding James Maddison's fitness. He says Maddison is set to return from Dubai and join up with his Tottenham teammates and at Hotspur Way whilst he continues to build up his fitness. And that is really encouraging. He gave news the other day about Maddison starting to do treadmill work and really building up his fitness in Dubai. So maybe we're not that far away from a Maddison return, albeit Ali Gold claimed that Van de Ven is ahead of him in the race to be fit. So if we can get those two back, it'll be absolutely crucial. But when it comes to Maddison, obviously, if we can get him back in any sort of capacity in January, considering the players we have out, it'll be a massive bonus, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it looked like it was. We thought it was to be mid-January anyway. But when Paul O'Keefe tweets it and then says he's stepping up his rehabilitation, that's always hearing that's stepping up is always something very, very positive. Good to get him back home and training with the lads, and obviously we know how pivotal he is, and how vital he is. As soon as we can get him back, the better. And hopefully he'll be back for the remainder of the season without any further injury complications.
100% agree. Let's hope he's back as soon as possible. And last but not least, I want to talk about Jan Vertonghen, who was speaking on on the Mid podcast yesterday, and he had some interesting quotes about obviously his last year at Spurs and the Champions League final and all that. And the quote reads this: "I spent the entire Champions League final counting down to the 90th minute. On the way back to the hotel, I fell asleep on the players' bus. I felt really bad during that period. The link to the collision with Alderweireld and Onana was quickly made. I went to all specialists, but no explanation was found. I couldn't go to a restaurant. I tried it once and I had to leave after 10 minutes. I couldn't tolerate crowds. I fell asleep anywhere. Normally, I never sleep on the road. During that period, it happened every time. I felt there was more to it and kept talking about it. Now I'm convinced that it was a mental, psychological problem. Now, when I see photos from that time, I immediately see that I was wrong. Something was wrong, that my eyes were different, and I was always often down." Obviously, he's spoken previously, hasn't he, about he had that concussion in the Champions League semi-final, and he has kind of struggled. He struggled to kind of get over that in a weird way, and maybe that led to some mental, psychological problems that he's alluding to here. And I think it's important, I think it's a good lesson when you hear players come out with these things about, understanding what a player's going through sometimes, because obviously we see a player and we criticize their performances. But, Vertonghen in his last year at Tottenham obviously wasn't as good as, how he was for the majority of his time at Spurs. And everyone was criticizing him, saying he was finished, but no one knew what he was going through at this point. And it's such a shame that that's how it ended, and no one could really fix the issue or tell him what was wrong. And it's sad to hear these kind of quotes from Jan Vertonghen. But as well, you got to think back to that Champions League final. He had that concussion, and he went back on the pitch and played before obviously the staff realizing that he can no longer continue. So I do think a lot of the Spurs medical staff have a bit to answer for. But what do you make out of these quotes from Jan Vertonghen?
So as you know, Simeon, very well, this is two things that mean a hell of a lot to me. Jan Vertonghen, who I idolise, and mental health, which I suffer with, and a huge advocate for, and do a lot of work for. First of all, we had Dele Alli at the same time. We're obviously going through what he went through. We weren't to know till the summer. Jan has come out now. We had Aaron Lennon in the past, but this I'm just talking as well. Yeah, this is Tottenham players we like. This is a football worldwide thing. I'm just very, very upset that Spurs players had to go, or any players had to go through this, but delighted to hear that Spurs players are coming out and speaking about it and addressing it now and speaking up about an illness that really is there. It's such a shame to hear that. When you hear about a player in the final, in the pinnacle game of club football in Europe, counting down till the final seconds and winning the game over, That you don't want to hear that. Cody actually tweeted that earlier. And then you hear about him trying to interact and the difference in him. You could see, I think he goes on to mention a couple of games. I think it was one at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge where he said he could tell in the first half he weren't there. It's a worrying thing to keep hearing, and Jan is a hero of me as a man, as a player. He's a legend as a man to me. Fair play to him. I hope he's feeling in a better place and gets the help he needs. But like you said, this is it puts a lot more onto what his final year at the club was like, doesn't it? As you said, that he should never have gone back on the pitch after that concussion. You should. He was physically. I mean, how he got past the medical team to get back on the pitch for that to continue. Obviously, he's a warrior. We've seen he'll do anything, but he should never have been allowed back on that pitch. And has that caused more problems than just taking him off? We'll never know. But it's sad to hear he went through that, but incredibly brave and heroic to hear him come out and speak about it. And I hope this. I think the mental health aspect. I know we've got all much better across football talking about this, embracing this. I think more needs to be done. I think a lot more needs to be done for the welfare of the players. And people like Jan coming out can only help that.
100%. Well, Brian, appreciate your time as always, mate. Appreciate you joining me for the Tottenham update. If you want to see more of Brian Daigle, go check out Tottenham on Tour. I'll put the link in the description of the video as well. So appreciate it as always, Brian. Good to have you on.
Always.
Look, we've got preview day tomorrow, so make sure to go check that out. But we'll see you all very, very soon. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on.